Hey guys, my name is Chris O'Connor. I'm a UTRGV PA grad of 2021. So a little bit about myself and my PA journey is I graduated from Texas A&M in 2014. I was biomedical science and pre-med. I grew up in Copper's Cove. It's a little small town near Austin. Before undergrad, I just say I'm from Austin because no one really knows where that is. But after I graduated, I took a gap year, which turned into 5. I worked in a pain clinic in Austin, advanced pain care. Worked with pain management and neurosurgery. I was an MA and scribe, and I got to do a lot of experience in the OR. I also went on a few medical mission trips as well. It was a fun job, so it was hard to convince myself to leave. But by the time I got serious, I figured it was too late for med school, so I decided to do PA. I worked with a lot of them, and I appreciated really what they did. And it felt like I was comfortable, and it felt it matched my energy. And being able to do multiple lateral moves and work in different types of specialties was really appealing to me. So why I chose UTRGV, so I was already learning Spanish for a degree, and I went to UTRGV open house. I love the staff there. I love the culture down here. I actually stayed down here. I'm still down here practicing. And it was really worth it to come here, and I went to like 7 other open houses, so I was pretty dedicated. But definitely it was the right move for me, and I really like it down here. So I took a job in the ER. I did my capstone in ER and rotations in ER, and I felt like the first day it matched my energy and my way of thinking. So the ER, you can work in either the freestandings or the main hospitals. They both have their pros and cons. They both have their own different schedules. Freestandings, usually my shifts are 1 to 1, so 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. They're all 12-hour shifts. The main hospital is also 12-hour shifts, but theirs are usually 8 to 8. Either 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then the night shifts at 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. If the freestandings are always certain freestandings will have a mid-level always and a physician always. Some ERs with less traffic don't have a mid-level, but of course I'll work at the ERs with the mid-levels. It'll be myself and a physician. I'll work with 2 different physicians that day. For the first 6 hours after I arrive on 1 p.m., I'll work with the morning physician until the new one comes at 7 p.m., and I'll work with him or her for the next 6 hours until my shift ends at 1. So the way it works is that when I come in, I'll start relieving the morning doctor. I'll help him offload some of his patients. He gets there if it's busy when I get there. Sometimes I'll walk into 6 or 7 patients, depending on if there's any rushes during the day, or if it was a slow day for him or her. I may not pick up any patients. There may not be any patients to pick up once I get there, but essentially we tag team the patients. There's 5 different levels of acuity and patients in ER. You have 1 through 5, 5 being things like suture removals, level 1's patients being like severe traumas, or patient who's coded, and then 2's being the more critical patients like cardiac events or DKA, things that will most likely be admitted, and then of course it goes on and on and on to the less acuity until you get to things that are more like cough and cold, which are usually around level 4s. But basically, you work with a physician to take the patients that you each feel more comfortable with, and of course as advanced practice practitioners, the goal is to try to take some of the lesser acuity patients while the doctor deals with the higher acuity patients. But of course, as we develop as practitioners, we're able to take higher acuity patients. As of currently, occasionally I'll take level 1 or 2, level 2 or 3s, depending on what they are. Like I've managed some DKA patients, I managed some, in-STEMI patients. It all depends on the level of acuity in the ER and the scheduling and how busy the ER is at that moment. And the other aspect of the care that you have to work with in the ER is that there's a lot of different doctors you work with, and each doctor has their own practice styles, and each doctor you have to get used to. It's good and bad in the sense of you yourself, especially as a new grad, are developing your own practicing style, so you have to get used to not only developing your own practicing style, but getting used to working with multiple different practice styles of your supervising physicians. It is a challenge, but you do benefit in the sense that you get to see all these different styles of practicing that you can base your own practice style on, and eventually develop one successfully on your own. And the other aspect I did want to touch on is just the scheduling for the ER. It's definitely different scheduling, like the hours you work and when you work. It took a while to get used to, but I do appreciate it. Typically you get to make your own schedule. You work. I work on average. I can work from anywhere from 12 to 18 shifts a month, and sometimes they're in block schedules. So I'll work 3 or 4 days in a row, and I'll get off maybe 4 or 5 days. So it's pretty nice in the sense of you can really plan your own schedule and essentially, get vacations every other weekend if you wanted to. Of course, I don't have that luxury because I'm still paying off my loans, but I'll get there one day. So one interesting story I've had about it as a PA was I had a patient come in for abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting. Patient kind of painted a picture of a gastroenteritis type picture, probable food poisoning. The story he told me was the first thing I thought of. However, his abdominal exam didn't really match up to his story. And the story wasn't adding up quite to what he was making it out to be. So something just didn't seem right. I ended up doing a CT scan of his abdomen. I wouldn't normally, but just the way he was telling me and everything that happened, it sounded like something might have been left out. So I just did the scan, and it turned out to be that there were the patient had intestines that herniated up through the diaphragm into the thoracic cavity. It's called a hemithorax. So diaphragm was perforated with the intestines where the lungs are supposed to be. It's not a good thing. Definitely a surgical emergency. So we ended up having to try to transfer that patient out. It's a whole ordeal. Issues with the surgeons trying to get someone to take him, and eventually they did. But definitely a ordeal and struggling when you have a pretty critical patient, trying to figure out where you're going to send them. So it's one thing that happens in the ER, and you just have to deal with it and keep them stable until you can get the proper providers and proper surgeons on board. Well, if we don't count paying off the mountains of loans that we have, or credit card debt, depending on if you got that extra loan, which I didn't at the end. So anyways, the first thing that I ended up buying was actually what I'm talking to you on. I bought a new MacBook computer. The MacBook I had in PA school wasn't doing so good. It actually, some of the keys went out during a test that I was taking. The number keys weren't working, so I actually had to be the only student in a class of 80 other students to have to take the test on paper. So for that reason, I decided to upgrade and got a new MacBook. So PA in the ER, I like it because it has everything. It's kind of the reason why I chose it. It has a little bit of basic surgery you get to do, suturing. Depends on how serious suture is, but I get to practice some hospital medicine, dealing with, managing DKAs, managing NSTEMIs. You get a lot of different wide variety of things you practice as. And another aspect that I like is that a lot of it is same day medicine. If I need to get a CT scan done, I'll get the results that day. I get to treat the patient with what they have. I get to figure it out that day. Of course, that's what you need to do, because you have to figure out, if it's an emergency or not, whether or not the patient needs to be admitted or whether or not they're stable to go home and follow up outpatient. And that's one of the reasons why I do enjoy it, because I don't want to say instant gratification, but the results of the medicine that you're practicing, you get immediately. And that's very nice to know that that it shows that you're really having impact. And it's nice to know that the patients you can see them benefit from your treatment immediately. For didactic students, I'd say that study well, but don't overdo it. The type of material you're learning in didactic year is mostly, textbook medicine. That is important because as a didactic student, that's when you learn the majority of that type of material. As a clinical student and practicing PA, you don't get as much of that, so definitely take advantage of that. But you should take some time to enjoy the little things and have a night or two out on occasion with your friends. During clinicals, you need to take advantage of getting good at interpreting things like CT scans, X-rays, MRIs, and EKGs if possible, because you don't get as much of downtime to really study into those type of things or ask any questions to your preceptors when you're actually practicing. Another thing is that you need to see as many patients as you can as a clinical student. You want to be, I guess you could say, gung-ho and try to basically see as many as you can, because this is your time to get used to, to get comfortable practicing and seeing patients on your own. And I would also say that don't worry about spending your clinical time trying to prepare for the PANCE, especially not during shift, because that's the time you need to use to really, learn aspects of each of your rotations that you're doing. And don't worry about passing the PANCE. It's very important, obviously, to become a PA. You need to pass the PANCE, but your whole PA career is training for this moment. And as for the PANCE, you're gonna make it. Just take a deep breath and use the materials that you've learned to study with.